Hey everyone, welcome back into the Hey Hannah podcast. I'm your host, Hannah Ostapchuk-Kraus. We are back in the Midwest, back in real winter, back in real February. Although I got so unlucky when I was in Florida for my baby shower. It was like 30 degrees there. I mean, no exaggeration. It was fully 30 degrees. So being back in the Midwest really just feels like, okay, we're in the thick of it now, and we just got to get through the hump of the winter. But in good news, it's actually a bit of a warmer time, I guess you would say. What do they call it? A heat wave. There we go. There's a little bit of a heat wave. Now, we're not getting all crazy here. The heat wave in the Midwest really just means that things are not negative 20. They're just 20, which I could fly with in February. That to me sounds great. If I could just enjoy taking the dog for a walk and enjoy being outside, then I'm happy. I'm okay. And if the sun comes out for a few days of the week, again, I'm okay. I can survive winter. It's those weeks where you don't see the sun and the snow doesn't stop, or it's too cold to go outside. That's when I start to lose my marbles. But we're not losing any marbles just yet. We're in the clear of that, at least for a little bit. I feel like I'm coming into the home stretch of my pregnancy. For some reason, I'm out of breath just talking right now, but here we are, sitting on the floor per usual. I'm at 34 weeks right now. Can you guys believe this? I think Peter and I are going to be moving this month. I'm 8 months pregnant, and we're going to be moving this month. What kind of crazy person moves at 8 months pregnant? I don't actually know. My friends are making fun of me for this. It's coming down to, we don't need to move right now, but it's coming down to, okay, we either move now or we do it right after the baby's born. Not right after, but maybe a month or so after the baby's born. I just think which is going to suck less, Both are going to be a little annoying in their ways because moving is never fun. But I think it'd be fun to have a steady place we can just be at and bring the baby home to and not feel like it's temporary and we're leaving in a month after the baby arrives. You know what I mean? So that's what we're looking at. But yeah, I'm 34 weeks. I'm finally getting into those little hints of insomnia. I think every pregnant woman has warned me oh, are you not sleeping yet? And I'm always like, no, please don't bring that up. The minute you say to someone, I'm sleeping so well, and this happens anytime in life, anytime you're like, I'm sleeping so well in life, somehow the universe just hears you say that, and they're like, not tonight, sister. You better watch your back. My whole life, I've said that. And I've actually heard moms joke the minute that they're like, oh, my baby's sleeping so well through the night. The minute they say it, it stops. So people keep asking me, are you hitting insomnia yet? And I'm like, no, everything's fine. And I'm going to sleep with one eye open, being like, oh my God, please don't let tonight be the night because I just jinxed it. Lo and behold, I've finally hit a little bit of insomnia. It's not terrible because I can fall back asleep, although depending on what time I wake up, just so freaking alert. I don't have a lot of time to go back to sleep. Last night I woke up just wired at 4 a.m. What do you do at 4 a.m.? At least at 5 a.m. you could say, you know what? I could just start my day early. I could do that. I used to wake up at 3:30 every morning to just go to work. That was my schedule. I worked in morning TV for a while. So covering morning news, we had to be in the studio. I would take our first call at 6 and we would go live at 7. So early mornings, to me, sometimes I'm like, I should just get up. It's 4 a.m. But I was like, no, let's try to sleep. Let's try to keep it going. I couldn't fall asleep until 6 a.m. I think I passed out for probably 15 minutes, 30 minutes. I don't even know. Who knows at that point? But yeah, so I'm finally hitting that stride of insomnia. If you guys have any tips for falling back asleep or anything like that in terms of just conquering insomnia, let a girl know. Would love to know what you guys do. I've already upped my magnesium. I feel like I'm the queen of magnesium. I could write a short story on all the different types of magnesium that work for me and the ones that don't. So please don't suggest magnesium. What else? My gym routines have gotten significantly slower. I am huffing and puffing all the way to the gym the entire time there and then afterwards. I normally go and I listen to podcasts and I enjoy it, but lately I'm not even enjoying it. I am like watching the clock and I'm waiting for it to be 45 minutes so I feel like I've done enough. So what I started doing was doing 30 minutes on the Stairmaster, and that's actually helped me. And it's so freaking cold outside. I have to get creative at the gym. All I want to do is go for a really long walk. If you guys live in the South, if you live in Florida listening to this, consider yourself so incredibly blessed in these winter months. Now, I know in the summer, you guys will be eating crow and I'll be over here like frolicking through daisies. And we all have our wins, but February is not a win for Midwesterners. But anyway, so 30 minutes on the Stairmaster, and I actually feel like time passes if you're just doing little things on your phone, listening to a podcast, or I put on the most recent episode of Summer House. That worked. Now, when it ended, I contemplated my life, but it worked for a little bit, you know? It was like 2 days worth of a Stairmaster, and that was great. So if you have a TV show, maybe save it for the Stairmaster, 30 minutes in, and it like the way you can set your phone up will block the timer. So it's perfect. I had no idea what time it was. No idea how long I'd been on. I was just the people from Summer House arrived in the first episode, and that was great. But yeah, sometimes I just get bored of the treadmill even. Like I need to just switch it up because you can only walk for so long on the treadmill and really feel like it's doing a lot. So the Stairmaster was at least giving me that. And Peter and I talked about this in that episode where we talked about nutrition in the new year and where to start if you want to start working out and you don't know what to do, especially as a female, like going to the gym and starting to lift. And he talked about this phase 2 of fat burning. And this was in part 1 of the nutrition episode I did with him. Yeah, he talked about phase 2 of fat burning, and I can't articulate it the way that he did, but he was talking about how that's the sweet spot when it comes to actually burning fat. That's where the 12-3-30 thing comes from on the treadmill. I get so bored of doing that. I'm also at a stage where I'm not going all the way up to 12 and I am holding on. So I'm not even doing it right. I was like, let me just switch it up. I have no idea if the Stairmaster is in phase 2, but it does feel like it. So it makes me feel like I'm doing something. And I sweat when I'm on the Stairmaster for 30 minutes, like full sweat. It makes it feel like I've done a significant workout, even if I've really just been doing that for 30 minutes and that's it. But yeah, thank you to Summer House because time just flew by on that. Speaking of Summer House, I have to talk about Traders. I feel like I've talked about this every episode, but you guys, it is the funniest show on television. It is really so comical. And I know everybody's watching it and everybody's talking about it. And if you're not watching it, let me just tell you, it's the type of show you can put on and half watch. They do a lot of challenges. It's a lot of weird stuff. And it took me a long time to get into this show. People have been talking about it for seasons. And I was always like, I don't care. I don't want to watch a game of Clue, whatever. Now that I'm in it, you just sort of have to get through that first episode because Alan Cummings comes out. There's like fire breathing dragons everywhere. It's very dramatic. The music is intense. I was just sort of in the kitchen cooking something and was half watching. And you can do that pretty much every episode. There's a few scenes in every episode, though, that are so fun to sit down and really watch. Other than that, they have like competitions and I sort of just like listen to those. I don't really watch it. But yeah, the past couple episodes, I mean, Jam Jam screaming, Lisa kissed me, Lisa kissed me. I mean, it's basically a giant game of Clue with reality stars. And watching people make decisions, and these, they position it to be life and death decisions because the traders are killing people off, again, like the game of Clue. So watching these reality TV people make massive decisions based on quote unquote vibes is so funny. Like if you want confirmation that we're all morons, just watch Traders because obviously as a viewer, you know who the traders are. So it's like fun for you to just see everyone sort of guess who is the trader and who's not. And to explain this to people who don't watch it, the traders are the ones who are killing people off night after night. The traders can turn on the traders, all of that. So there's like a lot of fun weird drama that can happen. But yeah, if you want confirmation that none of us know what we're doing in the world ever, watch Traders. Because it reminds me of like why we're all the blind leading the blind. Because somebody will say something that has no factual evidence whatsoever. And they'll be like, I just get a vibe that that they're lying to us. And they'll tell a selected group of people this, and then that selected group of people will be like, well, I trust them because I trust him. And it's so funny because everyone's wrong. Like most of the time, everyone's wrong. I love that there's a few celebrities on the show who keep talking about how bad they are at this game. They keep voting for people who are the faithfuls meaning not the traitors. And I'm like, thank you for being honest. Thank you for saying you're bad at this game, because if I went on that show, I would be equally horrendous. Like there's no way that I can read someone like a book and decide if they're lying or not. But you know who can is one of the traitors. Spoiler alert, Rob. And me telling you the traitors, if you haven't watched it yet, I'm not spoiling anything because you find out in the first episode who the traitors are. But yeah, okay, we're at the point where Rob being able to figure out who was lying by just looking at like the whole dagger thing that happened and him knowing right away it was Natalie who had the dagger. I mean, he is an absolute mastermind. He's doing a great job of marketing himself as being way smarter than we all let on when we originally met this character in Love Island. He's so fun to watch. But now it's getting a little icky. I said this on the episode with Peyton, but I was like, he is the last person I would ever want to date. So he's marketing himself in a really great way in terms of like being on a game show and being a contender for any reality TV show. But he's like digging a giant hole for himself in terms of his personal life. I don't know one woman who would watch this show and be like, yeah, I want to date that guy, because the entire time he's lying and stabbing people in the back and he's doing it really well, whereas nobody knows that he's doing it and everybody wants to support him. So yeah, he's like too good. I don't know how he knows what he knows. And this is my hot take here. I know the last episode left off where Rob is choosing another traitor to join him. I really think he should have chosen Dorinda. I think Dorinda would have been perfect. A, she's a housewife. I don't think anyone would think that there was another housewife up there. And B, it's a woman. Obviously, Dorinda's a woman. And people are sniffing out men only. He chose Eric because he wants to get Eric out inevitably. But choosing Dorinda, like she could have really stayed in there for a while, I think, and they could have worked together. But at the same time, he's going to work to get people out. And I don't want Dorinda to go because she's the only fun housewife left and I need someone to root for. So Dorinda's all I got. She better freaking bring it. Okay, what other TV? I'm quickly getting into TV stuff. I didn't even tell you guys what I want to talk about in this episode. Like, oh my gosh, I just went right into the traitors. It's kind of embarrassing. I don't know how to segue out of this now. I'm just going to keep going with television and then we're going to go right into the topic, okay? We're just taking a deep dive. If you're listening, you're probably like, what the heck am I getting myself into? I'm so sorry. We're going into Real Housewives now. If you guys have been listening to this podcast, you know that I love talking about Bravo shows. The Traitors is a new favorite, but Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, an old favorite of mine. Always loved it. And this season is proven to be so entertaining. Bose is my queen. She's really fun to watch. She's sort of the voice of reason. Everything that she says, I agree with. And my heart broke for her when she didn't get that egg retrieval. You know, it didn't go as planned. But rumors are that she has a surrogate now, so I'm really hoping that's true. I just love her honest, practical takes. She asked Amanda to give Dorit some financial advice, and Amanda said something like, she gave some like woo-woo visualization manifestation style answer. She was like, how do you feel when you look at money? It's something like that. Like she was like, what do you want to feel the most? And Bose was like, sorry, what? Where are the facts? I need 1 + 1 = 2, not any manifestation. So I really loved that. But yeah, it's just a really good cast of characters this season. Amanda's interesting to watch. I think it's evident based on Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen that none of the other women have really befriended her. And it's sort of sad, but it also fits the bill. I think she's a little outcasted here. But Kathy Hilton is always just a hoot to watch. Jennifer Tilly has become one of my favorite people ever. I think she's so hysterical. She's so, what's the word? Relatable. Jennifer Tilly is so relatable. Her eating snacks in bed before they're going down to breakfast. I love it. And then Erica is always one of my favorite people because she reminds me of Bethany Frankel in the way that she delivers she articulates how she's feeling about herself in a way that serves zero miscommunication. Like when she tells people how she's feeling about herself or about you or about the environment, you know exactly who she's talking to and exactly what she's thinking. There's no miscommunication. I admire that, even though clearly I have to spend 45 minutes talking on a podcast to articulate what I'm saying. So that's not for me. But I think she's cool and her outfits are amazing and she's just always so fun to watch. Ugh, my foot is so asleep. I have to reposition. Hold on. Wow. Okay. It just took so long to get the life back in my leg that I fully paused and had a snack. But we're back. These are humbling pregnancy moments. I'm like, I have to wait 5 minutes. Let's make a snack. Okay, so where was I talking about? I was talking so much about television. I hope everyone's watching the Olympics. So fun to watch that. But stepping away from the television topic, let's dive into the real reason I wanted to do this episode today. And Valentine's Day is this week. And although I was never really affected by Valentine's Day, it always sort of feels like womp womp in my single times. But in the past few episodes I've done with Peter, we've done a few now just about like life and relationship. We did one where we talked about our wedding and how that all went. I received a few comments about when I mentioned that Peter was my first boyfriend, is my first boyfriend, he's now my husband. So, I was fully single and always in and out of like quote unquote situationships, but I was fully single until I met Peter when I was 33. And I've just been thinking a lot about the fact that Peter was my first boyfriend. A lot of people have asked me why or how that is. And I am always like, my guess is as good as yours. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit today and how different my life looked because of that. And I really wanted to talk to some of the younger girls here because I wanted you to know it is not weird to not have a boyfriend. It's actually, I think, cooler to not have a boyfriend. And there's literally nothing wrong with being single. So yeah, I didn't date around a lot. Peter and I always joke about this. Like, again, I had a lot of those quote unquote situationships where I would be talking to someone. Like, I think there was a lot of time where I was like, I had someone that I would be texting with or would be on the phone with, but it was far and few between. Like, it would be for a few months here and there. And then it always fell off. I didn't have a long list of exes. There's still even just like, when Peter and I talk about our past relationships, there's a few people that I would consider like a significant ex. But it's so funny. I don't even know if I could say that because now that I'm in this beautiful marriage, I'm like, that wasn't significant at all. But at the time, it just affected me greatly, I still think it's okay to acknowledge that as some sort of ex, even if it wasn't, quote unquote, your official boyfriend. Like, I was never exclusive with any of these guys. And some of them I really wanted to be, but they very clearly did not want to be in hindsight. Like, I'm like, what was I doing? Like, why was I entertaining them? I thought that it was an investment to do that. And obviously that proved to not be the case. But for a while, I thought that not having a boyfriend made me behind or made me different. My brothers made fun of me for it. I mean, and like all in good fun, right? Everyone did. But I'm actually really grateful for that. And I'm grateful for not having a boyfriend because it kept my life much simpler. I felt cleaner emotionally. And obviously there was less drama in my personal life because I wasn't in these weird, long, toxic relationships. The first thing I want to talk about is how being single is not a problem to solve. And I could put this on my tombstone. This was such a huge part of my entire life that I thought something was wrong. I thought because I'm single, it's a temporary failure. I think that our culture treats singleness like it's a temporary failure, like you're constantly sitting in a waiting room. And in order to get out of the waiting room, you need to adjust what you're doing. Like something must be wrong. And it's not the case at all. I actually used to get so upset by this. My mom would call me and inevitably at some point in the conversation, she would tell me that she ran into someone at the grocery store, someone at church, and they asked, "Oh, is Hannah dating?" And because I felt like this always came up in regular conversation for my poor mother who didn't know what to say back to this. And my mom would say, "No, she is, or, she isn't," whatever she wanted to say in that moment, because who knows what the heck I classified it as. I was always very sensitive as to what to call it. Because yes, I was always dating and I was always trying, but it wasn't always working out. But yeah, she would say, oh yeah, she's dating here and there, but nobody's serious. And then this person would say something along the lines of like, "Oh, she's got to just be less picky." You guys, truly, nothing pains me more than that sentence. You're too picky. Oh my gosh. If you're a single person, no, if you're not single and you've ever said that someone was too picky, I need you to call them right now and apologize because it's not true. But they either say, oh, well, she's too picky. She needs to get back on the dating apps. That's another one. There's always a list of something somebody would say, and I would feel physically upset over this. Like, it always bothered me. Another one would be like, oh, she should probably leave New York. It's impossible in New York. It's really hard to date there. She should move somewhere else. I'm making these people sound bad. They were not bad, by the way. It's just people who, quite frankly, didn't get it, had never had those really long stints of being single and didn't understand the current dating culture. I always felt like people made it seem like when they would say you're quote unquote too picky, you need to get back on the dating apps. That's people suggesting something, meaning that there's an error in place, right? When else do you suggest a change for something? It's because you think you could fix it. Like there's something to be fixed. But that's the problem. Like, there's nothing to be fixed. If you're a person in this world with eyes and ears and you're listening to this, remember this when you're talking to a single person. There is no solution. And especially, you don't know it. Because everybody's way out of being single is unique and it's different. And there's no one way to do everything. That's another thing that always would bother me a little bit is when people would be like, oh, well, you should get on. Oh my gosh, it's like if I advertised that I think people should get on Raya because that's where I met Peter. Like, oh, you should try Raya because that's where I met my husband. Yeah. And it's like you could listen to people say that till you're blue in the face about every option in the world. Only one thing is going to work for you and nobody knows what it is. So you don't need to listen to anyone. But there is nothing a single person is doing, quote unquote, wrong. Now, if you're a single person and you're listening to this, only you and God know if there's something you're actually doing wrong. But it shouldn't be up to random acquaintances to call you out on that and to know what it is and then to tell you that because that's absurd. But I really believe, like, I was kidding when I said that because I really believe that there's nothing that you could be doing that's actually wrong. I think that there's a lid for every pot, and I think that there is a way that we're all designed to meet people, and there's no one way to do it. There's no right or wrong way to do it, etc. But yeah, back to this idea of our culture talking about singleness like it's a temporary failure. There's always this push in marketing to sort of fix that. And I just don't think we should ever approach it as something that needs to be fixed or needs to be altered. Growing up, I sort of romanticized the idea of having a boyfriend. Listening to Taylor Swift Teardrops on my guitar when I was like 15, 16 years old. I was like, she gets me. I too am crying about a guy. His name was Drew in that song. I don't know, whatever. You get my point. Like ages and ages of me romanticizing the idea of having a significant other, having a boyfriend, and thinking like it was this huge milestone to get to. And what I learned was that I could work really hard in a relationship and I could still end up at ground zero because it didn't work out. Whereas I could work really hard in my career and no matter what, that was always going to pay off. So I sort of threw myself into work in my early 20s, knowing that that was worth more the investment for me. My hours were really crazy. It became really difficult to date someone just based on where I was living and, again, the hours I was working in these different studios. This is back when I was like in the thick of sports television. Now, I would always go to different events and have the opportunity to meet people. And I just sort of always banked on like meeting someone in the wild at one of those work events. I always sort of figured that that's exactly how it would happen because it seemed like if I work really hard at work and I don't focus on a relationship, then I'll be rewarded for not being one of those girls that puts all her eggs in one basket, But of course, that wasn't the case. And timing has to do with everything. If you would have told me at 16 that I was going to be single till I was 33, I would have actually died. Like you would have thought that my life was over. because you picture your life and you picture what's old and what's good enough and what society tells you you need. And you think that when you hit your 30s, if you're not in a serious relationship, that you're behind and you're different. And you're not. You're not. In fact, I'll say this till I'm blue in the face. It's cooler to just be single. You have space and time to figure out how to be yourself first and how to like really love yourself. And I know this sounds so cheesy. I think in all phases of life, I thought I really knew who I was. When I was 15, I was very, what's the word? I always had that like self-empowering or self-assurement. I don't know the proper word to use to describe this. I always had conviction. I always was like, I know who I am. I don't need to find out who I am anymore. Nevertheless, I had many years to discover who I was. And for good reason, because obviously you change and grow and shape and shift, as we all do. And it's much easier to do that on your own. I know this is common sense, but I'm just going to say this. You figure out what you like, what your routines are, what routines work for you, what hobbies work for you, how to spend time, how to spend your off time, what your standards are. You're not constantly texting someone and you're not constantly trying to fill that void, like, worrying about their mood, rearranging your life around them. That's a real thing. Like when you're in these on and off again relationships, you are worrying about someone's mood. You're thinking about checking in with them. Like you're not as present in your own life. And of course, like it's designed to be that way. But having a person in your life is only supposed to enhance your life. And so often we get caught up in these, I don't know what to call them besides situationships. We get caught up in these situationships and these relationships that we know we shouldn't be in because it feels good to be loved and to give love in return. Whereas it's actually just a distraction from the things that we need to work on ourselves. It's like, oh, it's such a catch-22 because it's so hard to see it in that moment. But when you're by yourself, like truly alone, you get to build all of those routines, all of those habits, and you get to build confidence. And then with that comes this version of yourself, like this identity that you're building as well. It sounds ridiculous, but I think of all of the holidays, all of the holidays where I was totally alone and I felt like life would just be so much better if I had someone to share these holidays with. Like Christmases, I hated Christmas. I talked about this earlier in the year in another episode of Hey Hannah, where Christmas was fast approaching and I would always do this. I would always hit the panic button because the end of the year meant like, shoot, another year passed and I'm not in a relationship. And it was just this daunting feeling. I don't even know how to get into this all, but there were so many holidays and weekends and moments in my life where I felt like I was filling time. And I was waiting for someone to enter my life, and I was really just filling time. Like, I had my routines, and again, this is what I think it's important to build, these routines, totally by yourself, because you get to figure out what you like and what you don't like. When I was living in New York, I loved going for Sunday brunch. I would go to church, and I would go to Sunday brunch. Now, did I always make it to church? No, but I tried. And if I didn't make it to church, I certainly always made it to brunch. And I would meet up with like these two best friends of mine, and we would always catch up about how our weeks were going and what we were watching and all of that fun stuff. But that became my routine. And that became my routine because growing up, I always loved going to church with the family and then having the family come over for brunch afterwards. So I sort of created that tradition on my own, even though there were some Sundays or Saturdays where I would do stuff like that and then I didn't have any other plans. Like I didn't have crazy plans to go out that night. Like there was a lot of time that I just spent by myself. When people would ask me, what are you up to this weekend? I used to just like get almost nauseous thinking like, oh my God, I don't have enough plans. Like I need to stack my days together so I look busy and I look like I'm trying to find a partner. Everyone always says, nobody's going to come knocking on your door, like whatever. That phrase is so annoying. I know it's true. Like, I know you have to go live life, but sometimes I'm like, shut up. I just want to sit at home. Okay. Like finding that confidence and those habits sometimes means just sitting home. And that's totally okay. Like, by the way, if you have no Valentine's Day plans and you are super single, good for you. I hope you sit inside. I hope you watch some Traitors And I hope you order in some great Thai food and kick your feet up and have a really jolly time. But sometimes that's just what you need, and you don't need to be out there. Like, I always felt like I needed to be in the streets working. Like, I had work to do because I couldn't find a partner. And staying in meant sort of failing. And that would be another one of those societal pressures of like, well, you can't stay in a lot if you want to find someone, you know? And it's funny, I always remember my younger brother, Luke, telling me, he was like, these nights where you say, I have to go out, I have to go do something, I have to go to the bar, or I have to go out to eat dinner and then just get a drink afterwards, maybe just so I could be out and about and meet people. My brother, Luke, would always remind me, he'd be like, you're not going to meet this dude. You're not going to meet your husband at a bar. He's like, I just know you're not. So, and that was just one case scenario for me. Obviously, it's very possible to meet someone in the wild at a bar. And I'm quite jealous of the people who do that because it always sounds like a really cute meet cute. But okay, back to my point. I'm like spiraling here. Back to my point about building that foundation of your habits, your confidence, your identity. Like that's why I would do the routine of going to church, getting brunch, maybe meeting a friend for a walk, and that was it. It's something you will look back on and cherish no matter what. And then you'll bring it into your next healthy relationship. Like your next healthy relationship can then jump into those routines that you've built for yourself and those habits that you've built for yourself. It creates this version of you that truly knows what you want without even trying. When you just create those routines where you do things by yourself, like, you know, okay, on Sunday evenings, I go to Trader Joe's and I get my groceries for the week. That's your routine. And then finding someone is almost easier because they should be able to jump into some of those routines with you. Another thing I want to say is that, and it's so easy to say this in hindsight, but like attracts like, obviously. But a lot of teenage and early 20s drama comes from relationships because the breakups, the mixed signals, the situationships that I keep talking about, that was like, hello, my entire 20s. But it's jealousy, it's social media comparison. What I mean when I say like attracts like is if you're in a weird season of life, which we all always are, we all go through those, you feel like your cup needs to be filled in a certain way, and you will subconsciously look for someone who can fill that void, like fill that particular thing that you need. But it might not be what you actually need. You might need to heal and nourish a part of yourself that's completely separate from that void. But instead, you find someone who checks a few boxes and who maybe has a similar void. And this could lead to those months of emotional flip-flopping, like that emotional sort of chaos, and those cycles of toxicity where you want to hear from them, you're not hearing from them. They said that they were going to call you, they didn't call you, and you give them the benefit of the doubt, but they're working on the same thing that you were out to look for. Does that make sense? Looking for the next person to fix what the last one broke. That's what I'm trying to say. And there's a lot of people out there doing that. This vicious cycle of trying to fix something that someone in the past had already bruised. I actually see this so often in men. And I'm not knocking men. There's obviously a ton of very healthy men out there. But something I felt like I came across a lot in particular were men who would bounce from relationship to relationship really quickly, whereas women needed time to heal between these certain relationships. And men were looking for someone to fill the void that the last one broke. They were looking for someone to fix the thing that the last person broke. And for them, that enabled them to move on. And then they would almost come back to that breakage way later, almost like a year later. And then by that point, the woman who broke the thing has already moved on and is on another planet now because she was working and healing herself immediately. And that's neither here nor there. I don't know why I even went into that, but that was always something that I found interesting. Like women work to heal really quickly, whereas men sometimes would move on and then work to heal. And it could be hard because we don't know as women if the guy we're getting is fully healed or not from that past thing. But whatever, that's a separate tangent. Some of the healing that we're supposed to do is meant to happen internally, right? We're not supposed to need someone to help us heal. And honestly, it's easier work to do completely by yourself. The right partner for you should only enhance your life. Every aspect of your life should feel enhanced. Not like, oh yeah, but they have this thing. Everything is great, but they have this one thing. And if you are inherently single, like I was, you skip a huge portion of that emotional chaos, like the relationship chaos. Your life can be a little quieter, a little more peaceful, a little more stable. And you might feel like, oh my God, this is boring AF. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go do something fun for the holidays. I want to have fun weekend plans. I want to go ice skating. I want to do like weird, fun dates. And I'm not getting asked out on these dates and I'm annoyed. But remember that peace is so much better and cooler than drama. And like sometimes these situationships or these like toxic relationships we get ourselves into just bring confusion and drama. And God, there's literally nothing worse than that like pit feeling. Like when you're talking to someone and then you're not hearing from them that night and you're out with your friends and like somehow now your night is completely ruined because this guy decided not to text you after he was fully texting you the rest of the week, like he didn't check in with you, and that spiral feeling where you go to the bathroom, you check your phone again, you take a deep breath and you're like, oh my God, there's nothing there. Do I text him? What do I do? Peace at the end of the day is just so much better because you can go and enjoy your night and know there's nobody I'm missing text from and there's nobody I need to catch up with tonight. And remember, like anyone can get into a relationship of any kind, but it takes confidence to say, I don't need one right now. I'm actually good by myself. I'm good on my own. My life is full as it is. You don't need to always feel like you're checking that box of being in a relationship to feel validated and to feel confident. There's something so powerful about a girl who's like, yeah, this is my routine. This is what I do for fun. These are my interests. These are my friends. These are my hobbies. These are my goals. This is what I've accomplished by myself. And isn't like desperately looking for someone to complete her, or isn't always texting these guys, like holding on to these relationships or situationships because they want to feel validated and confident. It's important to remember that like having a boyfriend is not a solution. Like it's not gonna make everything better. And getting that, I used to think like, God, like it was so impossible to like get to that finish line of like actually being in a significant relationship. I haven't even talked about why I didn't have a boyfriend, but like, to tell you the truth, I really could never answer it. People were always like, wait, well, how have you never been in a relationship? Why? What do you mean? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? What do I mean? I don't know. I don't freaking know. You tell me. Like, your guess is as good as mine. I have literally no idea why I've never been in a relationship. I would try to date these guys who were not looking for something serious. And it would take me a long time to figure out that they were not in it for anything serious. Even when I met Peter, I always say like, yes, we had a lovely first date, but I didn't walk away from the first date being like, wow, that was my husband. Only because I had a lot of good first dates out there. I don't mean it like that, but I had a lot of good first dates in my life. And then I would just like not hear from the guy, or you hear from him and then he says he wants to take you out again, but then he only hits you up at like 10 p.m. or like some weird shit, Whereas with Peter, his follow through was so incredibly strong that to me, it showed me, oh, this guy's serious. Like he wants a serious relationship. He's actually looking for a normal, committed, healthy relationship because he immediately wanted to see me again. He told me he wanted to see me again. He actually made it happen. He talked about, I'm going to come back to New York and da-da-da-da. And then he actually did. I remember being flabbergasted when he texted me being like, okay, here are the dates I'm looking at. Which ones work for you? And I was like, what? Is this guy actually going to come back to New York? I was like, there's no way. There's no freaking way. What was my point? Gosh, I keep doing that. I was just talking about the difficulty in finding someone who wanted commitment. I felt like a lot of the guys out there were not looking for commitment. And for some reason, those were the guys I was attracted to. So that's what I mean when it was like attracts like. I was clearly filling a void, wanting a very certain, very particular type of guy who would be into me for all the wrong reasons. And I just didn't know it. I couldn't figure it out for a while. I remember like finding out in two separate situationships. And I call them that because I can't call them relationships, by the way. Like I know it's ridiculous that I keep calling them that, but they were not exes. They certainly were not. But they were men that I talked to for a while and I had like a friendship that turned into us like texting and hanging out more. And I was on a quest to seriously date them. And so that's why I call them situationship, because that quest ultimately failed. So we didn't even get to be in like a relationship. Anyways, I digress. My point is like, I remember going online and going on Instagram, and my friends and I joke about this story now, but I thought I was like fully dating this guy. I remember I met his family and everything. And then this is in my mid-20s. And then I'm on Instagram, and on my explore page, there's photos of him with another girl. And I was like, wait, what? This has to be a lie. I was literally, I just met his mom yesterday. And then I just go in investigating, and he's like, sorry, the story is so funny now. It was like this relatively famous girl that he's with, and he's like holding her like they're in a relationship. And I remember I called him and I was like, hey, are you in a relationship with someone? Like, I'm so confused. I thought that we were like going towards that. And he was like, no, I'm not. And I was like, well, then this girl thinks that you are. So I'm out. Like, I was like, it's evident that this girl sees you as very important. So for that reason, I'm out. Like, I can no longer be in cahoots with you, because this is ridiculous and embarrassing, and this is not how life works. And that was it. Like, that was literally the end of it. He was like, oh, okay, well, let me like call her and figure out if we're in a relationship. I was like, what? And he literally did, and then called me back and was like, yeah, so she thinks I'm her boyfriend, so I'm going to be her boyfriend now. And I was like, oh my God, what was I doing? Like, how did I not read that? And that's just me explaining. Like, that was like one of my early, I think it was like 23 or 24 when that happened. And after that, I was like, okay, I have to give dating a break for a while. And then I started doing those things that were my own routines or whatever. And of course, I fell back into like really stupid, idiotic situationships that I was hoping would turn into something else. And just like that one, very clearly, I was not a priority. So that's my long-winded answer about like how I didn't have a boyfriend. I don't know. And I used to hide the fact that I never had a boyfriend. Like, people would ask me on dates, when was your last serious relationship? I would be honest then and say, oh, I've never had one. And I think it's totally okay to say that, by the way. Like, hold your head high when you say that. There is something so confident about saying that you've never been in a relationship because you haven't found one that's to the potential that you're looking for. You know, please never, if this is you, like, never look at that and think, oh my gosh, this is something to be embarrassed by. Because I did that in other situations. Like, on a date, I think you have to be honest and you have to be like, no, yeah, I actually haven't been in a serious relationship. I remember saying that to Peter early on. He was like, what? Seriously? Whereas when I would be with a group of girlfriends that I just met, or, you know, with my mom's friends, and they'd be like, who was your last serious relationship or whatever, I would panic and talk about like my most significant ex, which is like not a real thing, you know, like these guys that didn't amount to anything, but just affected how I was living my daily life at that time, you know? Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I could talk about this topic in particular till I'm blue in the face. Another thing, I used to think that finding a boyfriend meant finding a best friend. And of course, having Peter in my life now, he is my best friend in so many ways. But when we became officially started dating, I was almost alarmed at how much stock I put into having a boyfriend being a best friend. When at that time I was like, no, I still feel so satisfied with my female relationships. Like, I still really needed my girlfriends. I still needed my best friends, and I still needed the relationships that I had built individually for years. And I still do. Like, I'll like go for long walks without Peter because I need to call my girlfriends and catch up. I still crave those connections. And I think that's really healthy. You spend so much time with other people in your life. It's important to nurture those relationships. And that's part of creating that routine and those habits that are really healthy that you can now bring into your new healthy relationship, you know? I just thought that was a really important realization. Like, there was this sort of romanticized thing of me being like, I'm going to find my best friend. I went to so many weddings where they were like, I'm marrying my best friend. And of course, it's true in so many ways. Like, your partner is your best friend. You see them every day. You talk to them about everything. They know everything about your life, your body, your mind, all of it. But nothing beats the relationships that you curated and worked on for years before you met that person. A healthy relationship should complement your life, not replace it, you know? So if you're ever jumping out of your friendships because you have a partner, you have to check yourself a little bit, because those relationships brought you to the healthy version of you that can now support your partner. I don't know if that's even worth getting into, but I hope you know what I meant by that. If your life is already peaceful, already full, interesting, grounded, then it's just a bonus to be in a relationship, not a true necessity. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up. I just want to remind you, if you are 16, if you're 18, if you're 22, if you're 30, if you're 35, and you haven't had a boyfriend, and you haven't had a boyfriend in quite some time, or maybe you've never had one, just remember it is completely normal. You are not behind. There is no timeline, and there's no correct age for this. Some of the strongest women that I know and admire in my life have also never had boyfriends, or they didn't date much, and they focused on work, they focused on school, they focused on their friendships, their faith, and their routines, and those are the things that they can hold dear to them. And they met their person later. And later could mean tomorrow. I always say that. It could mean tomorrow. It could be, I used to say, your life could change in 2 weeks. Like your whole life could change in 2 weeks. The right person is not going to pass you by. It will all happen when it's designed to happen. I talk about this so much. Just remember, if you're in that phase where you feel like you need a boyfriend, it's so much cooler to just confidently know that you don't, and to not chase, and to build a life for yourself and a routine for yourself, even if you're faking it till you make it. Even if you're like, I hate going to church and going to this brunch, but I'm just going to do it every Sunday because it gives me something to do. Like there are totally days like that where you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to just go hang out with family and friends that I know and love and not feel like I need to go out and find a partner. Like I need to go to public places and meet someone. Then it's like, go do the thing that you want to do in that moment. That energy will always be so much more attractive, more peaceful, and honestly, so much more fun, more confident. The better you feel about yourself today, the better your relationships will feel later, tomorrow. Okay, well, that was my TED Talk for all of the girls out there who don't have a boyfriend, who've never had a boyfriend, or are just in a long stint of not having a boyfriend. I'm just here to remind you that, like, you're doing freaking great. Don't listen to anyone who is out there chasing these guys. It's going to come to you when it's supposed to come to you. If you're one of those girls who hasn't had a boyfriend or hasn't had one in a while, like, please write in, let me know, DM me, email me, go to my website, hannahostapchuk.com, and just write into Hey Hannah. All of my contact information is in my link in bio, in my Instagram and my TikTok. And I would love to hear from you guys if you haven't been in a relationship in a long time. Truly, there's nothing I can relate to more in life than a girl who's never had a boyfriend. So please contact me and we could talk it out. But I love you guys. Thank you for listening. I hope everyone has a fabulous Valentine's Day weekend. If you have something fun going on, great. If you have nothing going on, even better. But I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks so much for listening. Bye for now.